ano ba ang nais marinig ng grupong ito sa SONA ng Pangulo mamaya?
Yes, Bernard, nais nga ng grupong Filipino Nurses United makinig sa mismong Pangulo kung ano yung kanyang mga plano, kung ano yung magiging plano at ano yung magiging sa kanilang mga panawagan, kanilang mga pagdating sa protection sa mga ospital, ang workers sa mga ospital, ang assurance na sila nga ay mabibigyan ng tulong sa mga pagdating sa protection sa mga ospital, ang workers sa mga ospital, ang assurance na sila nga ay mabibigyan ng tulong sa mga pagdating sa protection sa mga ospital, ang workers sa mga ospital, ang assurance na sila nga ay mabibigyan ng tulong sa mga pagdating sa pagdating sa protection sa mga ospital, ang workers sa mga ospital, ang assurance na sila nga ay mabibigyan ng tulong sa mga pagdating sa pagdating sa protection sa mga ospital, ang workers sa mga ospital, ang assurance na sila nga ay mabibigyan ng tulong sa mga pagdating sa pagdating sa protection sa mga ospital, ang workers sa mga ospital, ang assurance na sila nga ay mabibigyan ng tulong sa mga pagdating sa pagdating sa protection sa mga ospital, ang workers sa mga ospital, ang assurance na sila nga ay mabibigyan ng tulong sa mga pagdating sa pagdating sa protection sa mga ospital, ang workers sa mga ospital, ang assurance na sila nga ay mabibigyan ng tulong sa mga pagdating sa pagdating sa protection sa mga ospital, ang workers sa mga ospital, ang assurance na sila nga ay mabibigyan ng tulong sa mga pagdating sa pagdating sa protection sa mga ospital, ang workers sa mga ospital, ang assurance na sila nga ay
Michelle. infect ka. Yung mga na-infect sa atin, yun yung mga nagpa-party, nag-iinuman, yung mga ganon, di ba? But if you're told how to do it sa work mo, sa pag-commute mo, di ba, sa protesta, it's okay actually. So hindi siya contradiction in my view. But pag hindi mo siya i-control yung virus, talagang your economy will suffer as we have suffered immensely. Daming negosyo nagsasara, ha? Ang daming schools magsasara sa tingin ko. Mga private schools.
Actually,
sabi nila, 75% lang daw, 25% of students lang daw ang nag-enroll.
Angel, baka may question ka kay Dean.
yes, magandang hapon po, Dean, si Angela po ito. Yes, I agree with you, no? Marami nga po ngayon ang mga nagsasara ng mga private universities and colleges dahil nga wala nang nag-enroll sa kanila. Mas pinili na nga pong mag-enroll ng mga magulang ng kanilang mga anak sa mga public school dahil nga dito sa hirap ng dinaranas natin. But I want to ask you po, sir, no? Dahil according po to Secretary Martin Andanar, nagpakita po nagpamalas ng strong leadership ang ating Pangulo pagdating nga po dito sa pag-aayos or pag-combat nitong COVID-19 pandemic sa ating bansa. Ano po ba yung assessment nyo regarding this? Is it true that he showed strong leadership? And then, of course, yung before... Oh, sige, go ahead po.
Sige po. Finish your question, sorry po.
Yeah. And
yes, strong
kasi
leadership, yeah?
Go ahead.
Strong
Yes,
leadership na coercive, di ba? Na sa tingin ko mali ang pag-intindi. Kasi all the data shows na hindi tayo kailangan pagsabihan na compliance rate ng Filipinos is number 1 Southeast Asia, number 1 even globally sa pagmamaskara, sa pag-quarantine. You have a very strict lockdown. So strong in that sense. But not smart, no? Not smart. Kasi kaya tayo dumadami ng infections. Alam nyo ba na lalampasan na tayo ng China by the middle of this week, no? Kasi strong leadership is okay kung ang kalaban mo, di ba, pwede mong barilin, pwede mong hulihin. Hindi mo naman pwede kalabanin yung ganun, yung virus, di ba? The virus operates in a way na kailangan smart ka din, kailangan health. And sa tingin ko, ang pinakamalaking failure natin sa health interventions. At di ba, since health problem ito, mahina yung health leadership mo, hindi mo siya masosolve yung problema. So sana marinig natin sa SONA yung pag-amin sana na may pagkukulang at malaki yung pagkukulang at baguhin natin yung approach. Otherwise, I-predict ko na abot tayo ng 300,000-400,000 by the end of the year, no? Tulad na sabi ko, lalampasan na natin yung China. This week pa lang. End of July pa lang, malalampasan na natin yung China. Hindi naman siguro natin lalampasan yung America o yung Brazil kasi in the millions yon. Sana hindi naman tayo. Aabot tayo na hundreds of thousands at the rate we are doing. And simply, it's not about yung, tulad na sinabi ko, napaka-stricto ng lockdown natin. For anyone who worked on this issue, 25 years ko na rin tinatrabaho yung ganitong mga problema, knows na kailangan ka smart, di ba? Kailangan ka science-based dun sa intervention mo.
Din, bilang panghuling tanong ko sa iyo, sa sarili ko, ano ang isang bagay na gusto niyo pang marinig sa ating Pangulo? Maliban sa, of course, ito yung crisis, ito yung ating hinaharap, ito yung ating gagawin. Pero maliban doon, ano pa yung mga ibang bagay na importanteng issue ng bansa na sana banggitin ng Pangulo at magkaroon ng maliwanag na direksyon para alam ng mga mamamayan yung tinatahak natin?
Ayun. Siyempre sa economy, no, kasi yung related siya sa virus but at the same time beyond the kasi sa tingin ko ang pagkukulang pa rin ng gobyerno na ito, na pagkukulang ng lahat ng gobyerno natin, hindi naman siya solely Duterte lang, ay yung mahirap, 'di ba? Yung inclusive development. Gusto ko talaga marinig sa Pangulo na priority, no, na gawin nating priority ang mahihirap sa lahat ng mga programa. Sa totoo lang, si Pangulong Erap lang talaga ang nagsabi niya nung simula nung kanyang term, kailang minalas naman hindi natapos yung term, hanggang 2 taon kaya hindi natin nakita. But I haven't really seen a president na nagpa-prioritize ng mahihirap, no? Instead of prioritizing, ginagawa pa natin silang biktima, no? I mean, ang ayaw ko naman marinig ulit tulad nung kay Pinoy noon, ang ayaw ko talaga marinig na every year babanggitin niya si GMA. Ito naman ang ayaw ko naman maririnig, babanggitin na naman niya yung war against drugs, yung droga na naman, na yun lang ang problema ng bayan. Kasi yung ganyang klaseng pagtingin, di ba, hindi mo masosolve yung mga tunay na mga problema ng bayan.
Bukod kay Tony Lavinia, ay makakasama rin po natin ngayon sa ating talakayan si Professor Edmund Tayaw, isa rin pong political science professor ng University of Santo Tomas. From Ateneo, kita nyo naman, hindi ito from University naman. Prof, magandang hapon po.
Magandang hapon din Tony, good to see you here.
Good morning, good afternoon Ed.
Oo. Prof Ed, sabi nga ni Din Tony kanina, hindi naman kinakailangan i-separate mo yung paglaban sa virus at the same time yung ekonomiya. Diba, kinakailangan din naman na pero pagka ang Pangulo na ay nagdetalye ng ating national budget for 2021, ano ang nakikita nyo na dapat sana magbigyan ng poon talaga doon na mailagay at sa inyong palagay ay yun yung maghahango sa atin ngayon sa pagkakalugmok natin dahil dito sa COVID-19?
Siguro susundan ko na lang yung inabutan ko kay Din Tony kanina, no, na alam mo yung tutok doon sa mahihirap, siguro i-specify natin yung mga apektado in terms of employment, no, as a result of the pandemic. Ito yung mga hindi lang seasonal workers, ito yung mga kumbaga kumbaga day to day, no, ang basis ng kanilang kita, ng kanilang trabaho, no, yung mga nasa service sector, no, and so on. Yun yung siguro magandang maintindihan at maipaintindi din ng gobyerno sa mamamayan. Halimbawa, madalas nagiging debate, no, sa mga magkakaibigan, kahit sa magkakamag-anak, na sinasabi, andali kasing sabihin na i-lockdown natin ulit. Pero alam mo kasi ang naging problema talaga yung approach, no, ng gobyerno natin na kumbaga hindi siguro sapat yung pagpaintindi sa mga mamamayan na kinakailangan tumakbo pa din yung ekonomiya natin, kailangan pa din makapagtrabaho yung karamihan sa atin. Nang sa ganon, hindi may stand o titigil, no, yung ekonomiya. As you know, siguro maganda din i-emphasize, no, ng Pangulo, ng gobyerno, na hindi lang Pilipinas ang apektado at kumbaga nagkaroon ng malawakang pagbabawas ng nagtatrabaho, pagbabawas ng negosyo, no, pagsasara ng mga kumpanya. Hindi lang Pilipinas ang apektado dito. Kaya kung halimbawa maintindihan ng mas mabuti ng mamamayan, mas madali ding sundin yung mga pamantayan na sinasabi ng gobyerno sa pag-contain nitong contagion, no, nitong pandemic na ito. So, siguro doon yung kulang at yun na nga yung magiging programa ng gobyerno sa pagbalik trabaho, hindi lang yung alam mo, kahit nabigyan mo ng sapyan o ng pera, kung eventually wala ring mabibiling produkto o wala ding serbisyo, baka magkagulo pa kasi imbis na sinosolve mo yung problema, lalong lumalala.
Oo, ay magandang hapon po sa inyo, no? Prof. Edmond, isa po yan sa yung mga sinabi nyo sa mga may init na usapin na talagang inaabangan natin na sana masabi nga ni Pangulong Duterte sa kanyang ikalimang State of the Nation address. At isa pa rin po sir, sa mainit na usapin sa ngayon, ang bagong anti-terrorism law. Maraming grupo po ang naghain ng petisyon sa Korte Suprema upang hilingin na ideklara itong unconstitutional. Yan. Para po sa detalye ng ilan sa mga inihaing petisyon, panoorin po natin ito.
This will be weaponized not only against members of the progressive organization, but even members of the political opposition, ordinary individuals, maging miyembro ng media. We are not fighting this government. We are fighting the constitutionality of this law.
Matapos malagdaan ng Pangulo at ganap na maging batas ang anti-terrorism law, sunod-sunod ang mga petisyon na inihain sa Korte Suprema na kumukwestiyon sa naturang batas. Hiniling nila sa Supreme Court na ideklarang unconstitutional ang naturang batas. Sa petisyong inihain ng grupo ni Attorney Howard Calleja, kinwestiyon nila ang malawak at malabong definasyon umano ng terminong terorismo, ang pagpapahintulot ng warrantless arrest at ang 24-day detention period sa mga pinagdududahang terorista o sangkot sa terorismo. Ayon naman sa Free Legal Assistance Group of FLAG na siyang naghain ng petisyon nina Senators Kiko Pangilinan, Laila De Lima at iba pa, tila nire-regulate ng bagong batas ang kalayaan sa pamamahayag at kalayaan sa pagtitipon-tipon at ipetisyon ang pamahalaan. Hiniling ng FLAG na magsagawa ng oral arguments ang Korte Suprema. Nagbabala rin ang National Union of Journalists in the Philippines o NUJP laban sa bagong speech crime na inciting to commit terrorism sa batas dahil sa malabong definasyon nito. Kasama rin sa mga naghain ng petisyon sina dating Supreme Court Senior Associate Justice Antonio Carpio at dating Ombudsman Conchita Carpio Morales. Nakasaad sa kanilang petisyon na ang malabong mga definisyon ay nagpapahintulot sa mga law enforcer na gumawa ng sarili nilang batas at ipatupad ito. Tila sinasaklawan rin ng batas ang eksklusibong karapatan ng isang huwes na mag-issue ng warrant of arrest dahil sa ibinibigay na kapangyarihan ng Anti-Terrorism Council laban sa sinumang pinaghihinalaang terorista. Hiling ng mga petitioner na maglabas ng temporary restraining order ang Supreme Court habang dinidinig ang kanilang apela. Pero giit na mga bumalangkas sa batas, sapat ang safeguards nito upang hindi maabuso. Tiwala naman si Justice Secretary Minardo Guevara na reresolbahin ng Korte Suprema ang lahat ng petisyon laban sa anti-terrorism law, batay sa merito at hindi sa dami at kung sino ang kumukwestiyon dito. Ayon sa DOJ, epektibo na noong July 18 ang batas kahit wala pa itong implementing rules and regulation. Subalit paglilinaw ni Secretary Guevara, may mga probisyon sa batas na kinakailangang tukuyin ng malinaw ang detalye, kaya mas maigian niya na hintayin muna ng mga law enforcement agents ang IRR. Grace Casin, UNTV News and Rescue. Diyos ang aming sandigan, serbisyo publiko ang aming pinahahalagahan.
Ayan, para din po sa pagpapatuloy ng ating discussion, no, Attorney G at yung mga kasama nating political analyst, tanong lang natin kung bakit po ba mahalaga para sa Duterte administration na maipasa itong anti-terror bill sa gitna ng nararanasan nating pandemya, sir?
Si Din Tony, ang gusto kong tanungin na Angel, patungkol doon sa kadagdagan doon sa binanggit mo, kailangan ba sa inyong palagay din na talakayin ng Pangulo mamaya sa kanyang SONA kung bakit kinakailangang ipasa o napirmahan niya itong anti-terror law na ito?
Exactly.
Ano ba ang importansyahan niyan? Meron bang pangangailangan o dahil sa kinakailangan lang tayo bang sumunod doon sa international standard o yung karamihan ng ibang bansa? Dapat pa bang ipaliwanag niya yan o kahit na nasa Supreme Court na?
Sa tingin ko, hindi na niya masyadong babanggitin yon. Mamaya, syempre, i-defend niya yun. Pero parang sa kanila, nandyan na yan. Nasa Supreme Court na siya, no? Yung ano dyan, in the context ng lalo na palagi niya sinasabi kasi mga komunista, sa tingin ko baka medyo mellow siya doon kasi kakamatay lang ng ni Fidel Acayuli. Kaibigan niya ni Pangulo, he has worked with him. Kausap niya palagi yan during the so sa tingin ko may personal rapport dyan, so baka naman hindi niya titirahin yung mga komunista dahil nga sa personal na aspeto na yon. Sa tingin ko naman kaya naman yan pinasa yung international standards, yung mga partner madali lang yan, yung mga yan sa money laundering at lahat. Yung nakakabahala, yung pini-question doon sa Supreme Court, di ba, yung mga vague provisions, yung mga one-line provisions, inciting to terrorism, material support to terrorism, membership in a terrorist organization, yung mga na yon na divorce from terrorist acts but can be used against legitimate dissent. Yun ang tinatanong. I mean, hindi siya defensible kahit mismo yung Secretary of Justice nagsabi kailangan ng IRR for that kasi nga hindi siya vague siya by itself. I mean, so sana hindi siya pumasa ng Supreme Court. Po lahat ito sa akin, diversionary siya. Diversionary talaga siya, tulad ng yung ginawa nila sa ABS-CBN. Diversionary siya. It divides our people. Babalik ako doon sa sinabi ko, this is the worst state of the nation since World War II. Diba? You have to have a unified country, not a divided country. So sana yung Pangulo mamaya, lahat ng sasabihin niya, di ba, ay dapat sa lahat tayong nakikinig, anumang politika natin, dapat mag-oo tayo. Yan ang gusto namin. Para sa akin yan ang successful State of the Nation address in a time of crisis, di ba? When you actually say something that everyone agrees, di ba? Pero kung magsasalita siya, kung halimbawa anti-terror bill na pinakaano yan Attorney George, napaka-experience mo na sa Supreme Court. Nasa 20th petition na tayo. Aabot siguro tayo ng 30 petitions. Basically, lahat ng sektor ng lipunan nandun.
The most petition law nga daw po ito sa Korte Suprema din.
Sigurado yon. And good petitioners, hindi siya yung, alam mo diba, alam mo din kasi minsan may mga petitioners na lang. Ito good petitioners, na both good petitioners and good lawyers, from justices to bishops to senators, lahat ng sektor ng lipunan. Kasi may problema yung batas na ito na in the wrong hands, it will destroy our democracy. In the wrong hands, used by politicians, di ba? Hindi natin maharap yung ating dapat hinaharap bilang bayan moving forward.
Yan. Tanungin ko lang po si Professor Eds. Prof, ito pong anti-terror bill before, ngayon anti-terror law na, ay naipasa sa panahon na meron tayong pandemya. May nakikita ba kayong relasyon kung bakit doon sa panahong yon o pwede naman na sana kahit before sana yon? Ano ba yung urgency na meron kaya ang pamahalaan para maipasa ito o sadya bang kinakailangan ito sa panahon ng pandemya para lang yung purpose nito ay ma-achieve dito sa panahong ito?
Alam mo, matagal naman ng pending yung international basis nung pagpasa ng batas na yan, no? Siguro ngayon lang na-aksyonan, pero tama din yung angulo ng tinitingnan mo related sa pandemya, kasi alam mo pagka ganitong medyo critical lang sitwasyon, hindi mo maiwasan na isipin na vulnerable talaga, no, sa mga threats. Pero siguro bukod doon sa batas na maraming nagre-question ngayon, no, at nag-file na nga sa Supreme Court, maganda din kasing sabihin natin sa mga policy makers natin na alam mo at the end of the day it's the weakness of our institutions which should be given more weight, no, or given more attention. Siguro kung effective ang law enforcement natin at talagang sapat ang kakayahan ng ating kapulisan, hindi masyadong magiging problema ito. Kasi alam mo yung mga problema sa definition or lack of specificities as mentioned by Dean Tony earlier, pwede din natin kasing sabihin na kasi medyo ang tawag dito prospective yung batas, no? So kumbaga yung threat kasi yung sinusubukang supilin dito. So talagang kumbaga pwede nating sabihin na bagong approach ito that siguro they could have taken more time really finding out the right words, no, for the very critical provisions in the law.
Okay, pwede rin po, Prof. Ed, na sabi nyo nga, pwede rin sabihin na ang batas naman ay, halimbawa, regardless whether it is the anti-terror law or such other law, maaari maganda ang batas, kaya lang yung kawalang tiwala doon sa magpapatupad. So, nagsisimula doon sa kawalang tiwala dahil sa yung mga institusyon na magpapatupad din ay weak.
Exactly. Kaya nga, alam mo kung yung reform ay talagang itinutok doon sa institutions. Ito, bigyan na lang kita ng specific example, ano? Pag umikot ka ng Pilipinas, halimbawa, tingnan mo kung ilan ng pulis na meron sa, halimbawa, sa Tawi-Tawi. Alam mo, ang mga barangay dyan, no? Mga island barangays yan, it takes you 3 hours for you to go around the province, for example. But you might want to find out how many uniformed personnel are actually there, no, na doon sa probinsya. You will be surprised that there are some municipalities na ang pulis 3, 2, no. So kulang. Pangalawa, when it comes to investigative capacity, ilan ang merong forensic laboratory sa buong Pilipinas. So if you're wanting to enforce a law that's prospective, that will require so much gathering of evidence, kailangan malakas yung kakayahan na ito na meron. Ito nga sinasabi ni Dean Tony, lalo't vague pa yung mga nandun sa provisions, it will be open to interpretation. The law itself, to my mind, no, siguro kailangan talagang i-improve yan, but more than that, it's the institutions that will be involved.
if I may, can I come in?
Yes, sir. Yes, please, Dean. Yes,
If I
please.
may add lang, problem, di ba, the reason why, dalawang dahilan na sinasabi nila why they passed this law. One, yung international. That I accept, ha. Kasi hindi, gusto ko talunin yung terrorism. I'm not for terrorism. I want terrorism to end. Nagamin na kasi ako, among other things. So, importante sa akin yun. Pero they didn't have to have all these other provisions. Yung ano lang sana, yung pagsunod lang ng international designation, pagtigil ng pera, yun na sana. But the other reason sabi na hindi na nag-work yung Human Security Act was not successful. Dahil yun sa institution, hindi yun dahil sa batas, believe me. Dahil yun sa prosecution, first of all, sa investigation, diba, sa police.
Exactly.
Yung sinabi ni
Exactly.
no, I mean, because of that, wala talaga sila mahuli. They compounded that with this law. Kasi under the Human Security Act, kasi stricto yung definition ng terrorism, talagang traditional terrorism na yun, ng bubomba, ng papatay, etc., etc., the usual terrorist natin, yung ISIS, yung ganyan. Ang universe of terrorists, ilan? 300, 400, 500 people. Ngayon,
Yes.
these new provisions, basically, sa totoo lang, dito na isama yung NPA, yung Communist Party, di ba? That adds tens of thousands of people, di ba? At least 50,000 more people, dun sa kailangan nilang habulin, kailangan lang i-investigate. I think, and dahil pwedeng ang legitimate dissent makasama, suddenly ang dami na nilang ipoprosecute. Talo sila doon. Pero malaking effect yun sa mga tao yun. Alam mo ba, they filed a case against the Communist Party almost 2 years ago. They charged 800 people without any basis, without any evidence. So of course, ma-dismiss lahat yun. Diba? Or almost all of them. 8 na lang ata naiwan, like hundreds na chinarge nila na walang ka-basis. Pagdating na sa korte, alam na yan ito, ni George. Pagdating na sa korte, even during the Marcos time, nag-i-stick na naman yung mga judge, nag-i-stick naman yung mga judges natin about these things. No? Alam naman nila, pag wala kang ebidensya, anong gagawin ko, di ba? But in the meantime, dahil itatas na ito ay may mga no-bail policy, may mga ginusurp yung judiciary, pwede mag-provisional designation ng terrorist, pwede kang ihuli without warrant up to 24 days without charges, without ganyan, you cause a lot of harm on individual people.
Yun. Para po sa kaalaman ng ating mga kababayan din at Prof. Ed, bumaba na po, lumapag na po sa compound ng Batasang Pambansa ang chopper na kinalululanan ng ating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. At any moment from now, bababa sa dyan. At sabi nga natin, kanina pinakita na rin po yung imahen doon sa loob ng batasan na nakaupo na sa harapan si Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano at si Senate President Tito Soto. So nangangahulugan na wala na ito yung ating dating ine-expect na may mga pagsundo pa nila ng mga opisyal ng Senado at saka ng Kongreso ng mababang kapulungan, at malamang-lamang ito ay dire-diretso na ang ating Pangulo sa plenaryo, Angel, para mag-deliver ng kanyang speech. Sa aking nakikita, mukhang wala rin itong siya ay maglalakad muna para doon sa mga watawat ng ating bansa. So nakikita niyo po sa inyo pong mga television screen ang ating Pangulo. Nakabarong po siya at yun nga, naka-face mask din po siya. At least pinapatunayan ng ating Pangulo, Angel, na yung sinasabi niya na kinakailangan lahat kayo naka-face mask.
Lahat naka-face mask. Tama ka dyan, Attorney G. And tulad nga ng ating nabanggit kanina, yan, habang naglalakad ang ating Pangulo, kasama, I think kasama niya, nakita ko si Senator Bongo is there. Yan. Oo, and of course yung ibang mga security niya na kasama niyang bumaba sa chopper. And tulad nga na nabanggit natin kanina, malaki talaga ang pagbabago nitong magiging SONA ng ating Pangulo pagdating sa preparasyon, dahil ngayon nga limitado lamang yung mga guests na pwedeng pumunta dyan sa Senado ay sa Batasan, at nakita na po natin ngayon na talagang nakaayos yung mga upuan dyan sa Congress according to dun sa physical distancing. Hindi katulad dati, medyo dikit-dikit, and yun, nakikita din natin na tulad na ng banggit mo, nandiyan na rin si Senate President Tito Soto doon sa kanyang upuan. And And kumpara doon sa nakaraang SONA ni Pangulo, Attorney Gino, di ba yung kanyang likuran ay may parang kurtina na Mindanaoan cloth, if I'm not mistaken. Ngayon, simple na lamang, wala na pong ganun. Dahil ang mahalaga, tulad ng ating nababanggit kanina, ay masabi po ng Pangulo ang kanyang State of the Nation address. At ayan,
Tita Angel,
katayo na sila, Attorney G.
yung mga nagsasabi na mahina ang kalusugan ng ating Pangulo, kitang-kita nyo naman, pagbaba pa lang sa chopper, ang ganda ng kanyang...
Bilis nga lumakad.
Bilis maglakad.
Ayun
Ang sa loob ng plenaryo.
And if I'm not mistaken, Attorney Gino, may mga naitalagang mga iba't ibang kwarto, hindi ko lang alam kung nasaan, para ipapakita habang nagsasalita yung Pangulo. Ayan.
Mukhang opening prayer muna tayo.
Makapangyarihang Allah,
Makapangyarihang Ama,
makapangyarihang Ama,
Makapangyarihang Ama,
Ayan. Kasalukuyang ang nandiyan na yung ating Pangulo sa loob ng Batasang Pambansa. At isa pang karagdagan na pagbabago, Attorney G, di ba? Before yung prayer at saka yung national anthem, may mga talagang doon magsasagawa ng prayer at saka magpa-perform ng national anthem live. Pero dahil nga dito sa kinakaharap natin na krisis sa kalusugan, ay more or less lahat ng gagawin maliban sa talumpati ng Pangulo ay taped already, na-shoot na nila at ipi-play na lamang.
Kung napansin nyo, Bernard at Angel, pagtaas ng ating Pangulo, dati-rate sa lahat ng nasaksihan natin na SONA, ang Pangulo ay dumidiretso doon sa mismo kung nasaan ang kinauupuan ng Senate President at saka Speaker. So tatlo dapat ang harap. Subalit sa pagkakataong ito, napansin ninyo, ang ating Pangulo ay dumiretso mismo doon sa rostrum kung saan siya magdi-deliver ng kanyang speech. Ibig sabihin, yun ay para masigurado yung social distancing. Kasi kung tatlo nga naman silang nasa harapan doon, baka hindi ma-observe yung isang metrong layo ng bawat isa sa habang nasa harapan. So, ang Pangulo dumiretso na kagad sa rostrum habang nagdarasal at pagkatapos niyan, sigurado ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas at sunod dyan ay yung ipapakilala, mag-o-open ng House of Representatives ang kanilang sesyon at ang Senado rin ay mag-o-open ng kanilang sesyon. Ang ating pong Vice Presidente ay nasa kanyang opisina dito sa Quezon City at siya ay naka-zoom din para mapakinggan kung ano i-deliver na mensahe ng ating Pangulo. So sa kasalukuyan patuloy pa rin yung pagdarasal sa plenaryo. Ilan lang talaga, kitang-kita nyo po na medyo yung pagitan ng bawat lamesa at upuan ng mga congressmen at saka ang ating pong pambansang awit.
Ladies and gentlemen, honorable members of Congress, the President of the Republic of the Philippines, Rodrigo Roa Duterte.
kindly. Senate President Vicente Soto III, and the honorable members of the Senate, House Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano, and the honorable members of the House of Representatives, Vice President Maria Leonor Robredo, former Presidents Joseph Ejercito Estrada and Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, Chief Justice Diosdado Peralta, and the Justices of the Supreme Court, His Excellency Munter Mahfoud Salim Almantre, and the esteemed members of the Diplomatic Corps, Executive Secretary Salvador Mindaldia, and the members of the Cabinet, mga mahal kong kababayan. We live in a troubled time. A dream of prosperity for our country was suddenly snuffed by a pandemic virulent virus. No nation was spared. Neither rich nor poor were exempt from the onslaught of this deadly disease. But let us not despair. The vaccine is around the corner. Sooner and not later, the virus that gobbled up thousands of lives will itself be laid to rest. In the meantime, let us express the nation's gratitude to those who courageously and willingly put their lives on the line to serve the people and country. We share the griefs of their families, and no amount of tears can compensate their great losses. My countrymen, it is sad that while government focuses its attention resources to battle the coronavirus, there are those who take advantage of a preoccupied government. One of them is Senator Frank Dillon. In an interview, he arrogantly mentioned, among others, that oligarchs need not be rich. Then he linked the anti-dynasty system with oligarchy, and the topic was my daughter and son. This happened after the Committee of Franchise voted 70-11 to deny the grant of franchise to ABS-CBN. Obviously, he was defending the Lopezes, that they are not oligarchs. Great wealth enables economic elites and corporations to influence public policy to their advantage. Media is a powerful tool in the hands of oligarchs like the Lopezes, who use their media outlets in their battles with political figures. I am a casualty of the Lopezes during the 2016 election. The dealers and purveyors of illegal drugs hiding in the shadow of COVID-19 have stepped up their activities. The amount of shabu valued at millions of pesos seized during police operations speak volumes of the enormity and the weight of the problem that we bear. The corrupt, the grafters, and the influence peddlers also take advantage of their fear and confusion that coronavirus generates the financial and material assistance of government to the unemployed, the sick, and the destitute, running into billions of pesos are not spared from corruption and ineptitude. Even the donations for well-meaning private persons are skimmed before reaching their intended beneficiaries. It is like snatching food from the mouths of the babes. The profiteers, overpricers, and the corrupt felons must be laughing while they stash their dirty monies, but not for long. They cannot outrun the long arm of the law. In these regards, the words of former President Ramon Magsaysay ring fresh and relevant today as the day they were said decades ago. He said, "We need men of integrity and faith like Rizal and Del Pilar, men of action like Bonifacio, men of inflexible patriotism like Mabini. We need their zeal, their self-reliance, and their capacity to work, their devotion to service, and their ability to lose themselves in the common cause of building a nation. If we allow greed and self-interest and ambition to rule us, then, as stated by one prominent physician, we will be left with nothing better than the lesser evil instead of the greater good. In my inaugural address 4 years ago, I said that no leader can succeed at anything of national importance without significance unless he has the cooperation and support of the people he is tasked to lead and sworn to serve. The efforts and resources which we poured out produced the momentum needed to bring our country closer to our goals. Suffice it to say, we made significant strides over time. Over 4.3 million poor families benefited from the Pantawid Pamilya. Over 92.2 million beneficiaries received subsidies under the unconditional cash transfer program. We also made available tertiary education and universal health care. Public utility drivers were given assistance to the Pantawid Pasada program. There are complaints that some drivers did not receive any assistance at all. I have directed the SWD and DIRG to look into this. I welcome the passage of the law postponing the barangay and sangguniang kabataan elections. The postponement saved much needed government funds and ensured the implementation of projects under the current barangay officials. In the hindsight, it also saved us from holding the polls while we dealt and continued to deal with the pandemic. The Malasakit Centers Act has proven to be a great help to our less fortunate citizens needing medical services through one-stop platform in government hospitals. We commend the initiative and work of Senator Bongo in this regard, as well as other significant pieces of legislation as of today. There are 75 Malasakit centers serving Filipinos all over the country. These centers will be of great help in ensuring that our people remain healthy and resilient during these challenging times. The Salary and Standardization Law of 2019 increases the salaries of civilian government workers. I hope that this law will inspire our government workers to perform better and encourage young, brilliant citizens to join public service. I appreciate the law of establishing the National Academy of Sports. We can now give our deserving student athletes the training and the support they need to excel in their chosen field of endeavors. With the commitment of key members of Congress, the Executive Department, the FISGOC, or the Philippine Sports Commission, and the Philippine Olympic Committee, we're bound together with one vision to host the 30th Southeast Asian Games. Our athletes prevailed. More than that, we fostered pride, patriotism, genuine sportsmanship, and camaraderie in our South Asian brothers and sisters. Indeed, we won as one. To our business community and the general public, we assure you that the landmark ease of doing business and efficient government service delivery act has been gaining momentum. We are closer to eliminating over-regulation in government services. Frontline processes, including consular services, processing of building and business permits, and the services of overseas Filipinos and seafarers were streamlined. Passports and driver's license validity were lessened to ease the burden of the public. We received a BBB plus credit rating despite ASEAN credit rating downgrades and negative outlook revisions in the worldwide. The Japan Credit Rating Agency upgraded us from BBB plus to A minus last month. Meanwhile, Moody's has affirmed and maintained the country's ratings at Baa2 rather. To understand, because with the light I have mine eyesight is not as good as new. Our fiscal position is strong, our economic fiscal management prudent, and our banking system robust. We are in a better position to weather the crisis caused by COVID-19 global pandemic. We have accomplished significant infrastructure projects under the Build program. I will not dwell lengthily on the nitty-gritty of our infrastructure accomplishments. Now, lest I bore you. Instead, we will release a comprehensive written report of our collective milestones and the details of accomplishments that remind us that perseverance, patience, determination will help us move forward even in the most difficult times. We issued last year the Executive Order number 100, establishing the Diversity and Inclusion Program as national program of the government. We want to end discrimination of persons on the basis of age, disability, ethnicities, sexual orientation, and gender identity and expression, and other character traits. My administration always believed that freedom from illegal drugs, terrorism, corruption, and criminality is itself a human right violation. Part of our efforts to uphold human rights is protection of the rights of children and the right against discrimination. Early last year, I signed Executive Order number 92, creating the National Council Against Child Labor. Government efforts to protect the rights of children will be amplified to prevent, reduce, and eliminate any form of child labor. Our achievements along this line will have been extolled by an overwhelming number of fellow member states in the UN Human Rights Council during its recently held 44th session last June. Rest assured that we will not dodge our obligation to fight for human rights. My countrymen, there are lessons to be learned from the coronavirus pandemic. It jolted us to realize that gains made after spending so much planning, effort, cost, and time could diminish considerably and quickly for reasons beyond one's anticipation. That it is much easier to destroy than build. That in a crisis of national proportion that affects every aspect of human life, government needs to have the support and cooperation of the people if it is to succeed in battling the cause of that crisis. That there are people who ask for compassion but show none themselves. That life, after all, is fickle, like the weather. The gains we achieved for the first 3.5 years were put to a test when the pandemic suddenly struck the global community. While I am aware that the road towards a comfortable life would all be far easy if the pandemic had not occurred, and around the rest of the world we suffered. The global scale and socio-economic impact of COVID-19 pandemic has been unprecedented. Yet, in the throes of its global health emergency, we have been able to withstand the headwinds generated by this coronavirus. In this regard, I would like to express my gratitude to all those who made possible the steady supply of food, water, basic utilities of our households. And the provisions of basic social services and financial assistance to our people. Our profound gratitude goes to everyone who helped keep our country's food supply chain running. The valiant soldiers, policemen, and security guards who kept peace and order in our community. The dedicated personnel who kept our essential establishments operational. You showed us kindness and selflessness. You gave us strength You risk your own lives to serve the greater good in keeping the Filipino spirit of bayanihan. I also thank the men and women of the Interagency Task Force on Emerging Infectious Diseases and the National Task Force Against COVID-19 for all the countless hours it spent to keep the pandemic in check and for all the efforts it made to ensure the safety of our people. Let me also recognize the efforts of the local government units that step up and initiated their own response measures to contain effects of COVID-19 and its impact to their constituents have been impact to its constituents. The shadow says it's a period there. I know exactly the difficulties you are undergoing. I pray that the officials of each LGU in our country, from the barangay to the autonomous regions, would set aside partisan politics and selfish interests to do what is right and good for all. Likewise, I likewise issued Executive Order Number 104, which imposed ceilings on retail prices of at least 133 drugs and medicines, and directed a continuous review of the retail prices of others. This proved to be providential now that we are facing a pandemic. To everyone who helped us in this time of great need, maraming salamat po. Let me say that the strength of a nation rests in the hands of the people acting as one with government. In the pursuit of common goals and objectives, when the pandemic struck, I decided to prioritize life over other considerations according to experts. The intervention that the government had put in place prevented as much as 1.3 to 3.5 million infections. To me, even if the numbers were much lower, it would still be and would have been worth the sacrifice we made. Buhay muna bago lahat. We initially encountered difficulties ramping up our testing capacity. We now have 93 accredited testing laboratories nationwide, and we are aiming to conduct 1.4 million tests by end of July and ensure a quick turnaround time of 48 to 72 hours. Under the Social Amelioration Program, we allotted 2.5 billion or 2.5 billion for poor and low-income households who were affected during this pandemic, who thrive on a no work, no pay arrangement. Admittedly, our implementation of the Social Amelioration Program was not perfect, and some opportunists turned crisis into opportunity. We will catch up with you sooner than you think. We came up with the COVID-19 Adjustment Measures Program, extended financial assistance to over 650,000 affected individuals in the formal sector. 110 OFWs abroad, and almost 83,000 repatriated OFWs were also provided temporary wage employment to displace marginal workers through the Tupad project. Our indigent senior citizens were also provided with a stipend for the rest of the semester of the current year. This health emergency stretched government's resources to its limits. In response to the Office of the President, worked closely with Congress for the quick passage of the Bayanihan to Heal as One Act. May I again reiterate my thanks to you, the men and women of Congress, for the effort you invested in passing that law. I hope that we can get some or the same treatment of clarity, purpose, and the fastness to support the passage of the Bayanihan Recover to Act as One, which is supplement funds for recovery and response against the impact of COVID-19 pandemic. We must facilitate the country's economic recovery. I call on Congress to fast-track the passage of the proposed measure, such as the Corporate Recovery and Tax Incentives Enterprises or CREATE Act. This immediately cuts the corporate income levy from the current 30 to 25% and give government flexibility to grant a combination of fiscal and non-fiscal incentives, among others. The Financial Institutions Strategic Transfer, or First Act, will set up mechanisms allowing banks and other financial institutions to dispose of and transfer non-performing assets and loans to asset management companies similar to the special purpose vehicles. Our economic managers have seen infrastructure investment as an effective tool to help spur high growth, attract investments, create jobs, and achieve financial inclusion for all Filipinos. The DBP has resumed the construction of the North Luzon Expressway Harbor Link, the NLEX-SLEX connector, the Cavite-Laguna Expressway, the Metro Manila Skyway Stage 3, the R1 Bridge Project, the Tarlac-Pangasinan-La Union Expressway Project, and the Subic-Freeport Expressway Project, to name a few. To realize the maximum benefit from the country's investments, the infrastructure projects under the Build, Build, Build program, which are labor and capital intensive, are not mere springboard for the country's swift recovery pandemic. They are economic benefits to be distributed to all corners of the country and push sustainable stability in the urban centers, particularly Manila. The TESTA launched online mode of livelihood and skills training. There are 71 free online training to help upskill trainees for the right opportunities. I asked TESDA to come up with special training programs to retool our OFWs so they can find employment opportunities here and at home. I am also calling on the CHED for scholarship programs for the qualified dependents of our OFW. I direct the Department of Agriculture and DTI to come up with the agribusiness and entrepreneurship projects to help displaced OFWs rebuild their livelihood. Further, I ask the Land Bank and other government financial institutions to continue providing low interest loans to our OFW. Sa mga kababayan ko na naghihirap sa ibang bansa, nandito na ang inyong gobyerno para matulungan kayo at inyong mga pamilya, lalo na sa panahong ito. The government will intensify its efforts to help businesses, especially micro, small, and medium enterprises, or MSMEs, by providing responsive government assistance and services capitalization and business operation support as we adapt to the next normal. Nananawagan po ako sa ating mga lessors. Nananawagan po ako sa ating mga lessors. Malasakit at bayanihan po ang sana ang pairalin natin ngayon. This is not the time to drive away laces. During normal times, they were the primary source of your income stream. Now, it's time to be fair and compassionate. Come up with an amenable agreement with your tenants. Huwag po natin silang pagtabuyan, tanggalin ang tubig, kuryente at bubong. Commercial establishments are requested to give grace periods to allow deferment of payments, especially for MSMEs that were forced to close down during the quarantine period. Let us help them recover. We pump-prime the recovery and rehabilitation of the MSMEs. The DTI to the Small Business Corporation set up the Philippine 1 billion COVID assistance to restart enterprises or CARES program to provide zero interest loans for MSMEs affected by the pandemic as of July 10,